right?
What have you been doing the last 30 years?
Well, I'll tell you, Don, just in a few minutes. Actually, Don and I, it was 50 years since we were together. That seems like impossible, doesn't it? Don was actually one of my major professors in my master's programs here at Montana State. He recommended I go to UC Davis after that, and after I went 5 more years and finished a PhD, I ended up back on the farm in '78, and I found that a farm big enough for one family didn't really support 2 families too well. So I started looking around for some ways that we could augment our income, and I started within just a few years in 1983, Montana Flour and Grain. And we started selling our grain right directly off our farm to whole grain bakers in California that were looking for high protein and good quality. And we added $1 a bushel to what we were selling, and we thought we had hit the jackpot. And then a year later, they wanted us to find some organic grain. So we started selling organic wheat to them. And that was a whole new episode in my life. And at that time, I didn't know a sick'em about organic. And then it ended up changing the whole way I farmed a few years later. And then next year, a year or 2 after that, they wanted stone ground whole wheat flour. So we bought some stone mills and started making stone ground flour. We started with just regular bread wheat, and then we went to Durham. So we started selling whole grain stone ground Durham flour to pasta manufacturers. In those days, you could use a 100-pound sack like this one is. You can't do that anymore.
And, you can't lift 100 pounds. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's empty. And then we took a big turn and went into an ancient wheat. First, I should show you. I always carry it in my hat here. So you can see in my hat is this ancient Coruscant wheat. It's a close relative to durum. But we found that most people who couldn't eat modern wheat could eat this. So we're into a whole new episode. And so we started selling Kamut brand organically grown wheat and flour. And then I sold my flour mill in about '99 in an effort to reduce and simplify my life. Which that didn't really happen. I went into the windmill business after that. Was involved with the Judith Gap project for a few years, getting that going. And then I came back to the farm, and or focused back on the farm. We started growing high oleic safflower, and so we were selling high oleic safflower into. We had presses on the farm into oil, and we had 3 sizes. It's just distributed around the state, and actually Montana State here in the U of M uses this oil in all of their kitchens and all their cooking now. So we're pretty excited about that. And from the U of M, we get the waste oil back, although we don't call it waste oil. We just buy back the used oil, and we clean that up and put it in our tractors. So we're selling it twice. So it really, that helps out the economics. And if you wanted to see into the future just a little bit, my daughter's making a red wine vinegar. And so next year we hope to have an oil and vinegar combo for the parks to sell as souvenirs.
Wow.
So, and then one last thing, we started, when we started selling the flour, I started selling my grain by the pound then. And then I figured out, if you could sell your grain by the ounce, it really helps the bottom line. So now we're selling the Kamut as crackling Kamut. We have 2 flavors now. It's a roasted product. It's roasted in the high oleic safflower that we grow. And then it's a little bit of sea salt on it. This has cinnamon and a touch of sugar. And so these are our products that we're doing now. So that's my last 40 years.
Wow.
So.
You have been busy, Bob.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of good help. And what we're trying to do is revitalize rural America and not only make the farm profitable, but also bring back families that have been leaving for decades now.
Good. Well, hopefully a lot of our people that are watching tonight will call in with some more questions or more details, and we'll come back to
All right,
those.
good. Thank you.
Okay, so Toby, we need to start with you. A question came in from Shelby. She leaves her pesticides in the garage every year, and they always freeze. Amazing. Are they still safe to use, and will they still be effective?
So yeah, a lot of people leave the pesticides in the garden or in the garage. If the garage is attached to the house, sometimes it doesn't get cold enough, especially if the storage is next to the wall that would be attached to the house. I don't always see that, and sometimes your pesticides freeze. The problem is that some pesticides do not work after they freeze and some do. And it's hard to tell because sometimes you have to go through the entire label to try to figure that out. And it doesn't always say. So the one thing that I would do is I would contact the manufacturer to find that out. because it's going to be different for each one of the pesticides. So it's some can freeze, some can't. So check the label first. If you don't see it on the label, then contact the supplier.
And next year, don't storm in the
Exactly.
garage.
Exactly.
Okay, Lori from Bozeman. The needles on their Mugo pine have a silver-white substance on them, and it's gradually spreading along the row of Mugos. What is this, and what can they do about it?
I don't know the technical term, but isn't that part of the Mugo pine? I think Toby knows the answer to this question, because I think that's, we have an insect called pine needle scale, but I don't know if it's
I'm
pine
pretty
needle
sure
scale or if it's part of the Mugo pine itself.
I would say 9 times out of 10 it's pine needle scale.
Because what is the other? Is it the bristlecone pine?
Bristlecone pine.
Okay,
So
that's what
Mugo
I'm
pine's
thinking.
a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably pine needle scale, and I brought a sample with me. But pine needle scale, a lot of our pines have pine needle scale, and so do our Colorado blue spruce. And most of the time, natural enemies will step in and take care of them. But just take care of your tree, make sure it's healthy, and I think a lot of natural enemies will keep them in check for the rest of the season.
Okay. Bob, this is a question for me.
Uh-oh.
What was the biggest problem you faced in your early years of organic production, and how did you solve that problem?
Well, there were lots of challenges because I didn't know anything about organic when I started, and I didn't have any neighbors that were organic. I remember coming here to MSU in those days and asking one of the weed scientists, he's long gone now, but I said, how can I control my weeds without using chemicals? And he kind of leaned back in his chair and his eyes rolled over and he said, no one's ever asked me a question like that before. So what I did, Don, is really, I called farmers that I knew, even though I had to go to North Dakota and Nebraska, who are really excellent organic farmers. And I asked them questions. I tried lots of experiments on my farm to see what would work. And what would work I kept, and what didn't work I threw away. And over 20 or 30 years, we've been able to develop a 9-year rotation that's pretty stable, and the system works very well.
We're going to ask you a little bit more about that, but next I want to ask Perry, what is MSU doing for organic research? Are you involved in anything along that line?
Yeah, myself and some others, and we're probably not doing enough, but we've got one study where, interestingly, we were trying to look at reduced tillage methods for organic, and we were using grazing as a way of doing that. And next thing, we got ourselves into some pretty serious weed trouble. So now we got a new grant to look at weed management. And so Pat Carr has led that. Some of the principals have been Pat Hatfield, Fabio Manala, Zach Miller's been doing interesting work with vegetables and more focused on field bindweed over at the Corvallis Research Center near Missoula. So yeah, we have a bit of research going on. So again, it often feels like we're playing catch up a little bit, but we are trying to figure out at least some of these weed issues for sure.
Well, I think there's over half a dozen or more now faculty and staff people
Yes.
here at MSU that are really focused on organic questions. And we really appreciate that, Don. You should know. It's a big help for us.
Toby, this question just came in from, can't read the name of the town, maybe Billings, and they'd like to know, what soil do you need in raised beds to graze good tomatoes?
Okay, that's interesting. So there's a lot of stuff that you'll find on the internet, and sometimes I just cringe when I hear about things on the internet, because one of the things that I see is people put a lot of carbon, so a lot of compost in their raised beds. Really, you only need about 5 to 8% organic matter in your raised beds. Anything more than that, then the nitrogen is kind of taken up by the microbes trying to break down all of that carbon. So really a good topsoil, if I was putting something in a raised bed, I'd probably put about 2/3 topsoil and one part or 1/3 compost. And that should get you to that probably a little bit higher than 5%, but that would probably be the best setup and probably the cheapest. If I was doing that, I would try to find plant-based compost rather than manure-based compost, just to kind of stay away from some of those herbicide residuals, because if you're in a raised bed and you're growing tomatoes are very susceptible to herbicide, and there can only sometimes be 1 part or 4 parts per billion depending on the chemistry to curl those tomato leaves. Other than that, one of the things that I like to say about tomatoes is that you're trying to get a ripe fruit. So if you have them over fertilized and you're pushing them really hard, they're going to stay green. You're going to have green tomatoes for the entire season. So what I usually do is, if you think about it, you want that tomato to produce a mature fruit, so it has mature seed. So I give them fertilizer in the spring, and then I'm done. And then about August 1st, I shut the water off to them. If you shut the water off to them, then it stresses them out, and all of the sugars go to the fruit trying to produce that mature seed. And that way you can get a mature tomato. So don't overthink it. It's an annual. You really just kind of want to torture it and get some fruit out of it.
Okay, Lori, this person says, I see the city cutting down a lot of ash trees. What's the latest with emerald ash borer? Is that why they're cutting these trees down, or is emerald ash borer in Montana yet?
It hasn't been detected yet, and a lot of our ash trees are unhealthy, and I think that's probably been something that they've tried to focus on, is getting rid of. A lot of them are at the end of their lifespan and need to be removed in preparation for when we think the pest is going to be here. So no, it has not been detected yet, but we do expect it to make it to the state at some point.
Okay. Bob from Great Falls, how is the oil barn doing? You have to explain what oil barn
Okay.
is. And does biodiesel have a future in Montana?
Well, that's a really great question. Really good question. The oil barn really is the company that made those oil products that I showed you at the beginning of the show. And what we're thinking is that rather than continue in the debate of food versus fuel in this country, why don't we grow like vegetable oils and use them first for food and then for fuel? And rather than make biodiesel out of it, we've been able to find a company in Germany which can modify our tractor to preheat that vegetable oil, and so we're burning straight vegetable oil. We're not making biodiesel out of it. And I think that is the future. We can't grow enough fuel for our cities, and I don't think we should bother trying, but we can grow enough fuel to fuel our farms. And those farms could be involved with growing it themselves and keep all that money that we spend for diesel, at least for the farms, right in our communities. That's part of community development that I see a future in.
How in the world do you keep your employees fed? Because if I was driving around a tractor, it smelled like French fries. I'd be hungry all day long.
Well, it's much more pleasant, I'll tell you that.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. And that's the only difference we could tell it with the tractor. We could feel no loss of power. We could hear no difference in the engine noise. When we put it on a turbo in Great Falls and I had them test my straight vegetable oil compared to diesel, we found it was 94% of the energy in diesel was there available for that diesel engine with our vegetable oil. So it's right up. Most of you're not running the engine more than that normally, more than that capacity. So it really works.
Bob, how many different oil crops have you worked with, and what's your experience? What's working best? What's not working so well?
Well, we started out looking at camelina because we were told in the early days when we were excited about vegetable oil running engines, that camelina was the oil of choice, and we're going to make biodiesel out of that. And it became apparent how expensive biodiesel was to make. And then you had to do testing, which is quite expensive for small batches at the end, to know if it had gone to completion was really good quality. And so I was a little discouraged with camelina. I took it to my friends in Germany who were doing the straight vegetable oil, and they said, oh, well, this won't work because it's a polyunsaturated oil, and you need a monounsaturated oil. So we chose safflower because we're in hot and dry. If we were further north, we might do Ohio Lake canola, or further east where it rains more, we might do Ohio Lake sunflowers. But they have to be high in oleic acid. That's a monounsaturated. Our safflower that was developed by an MSU affiliate, Jerry Bergman, over in Sydney, is as good as olive oil. So it's really good for your heart. It's the best kind of oil for high temperature cooking, and it's fantastic with popcorn. So once we got going with that, I stuck with it because that really worked well for us, and it works best for where we're at.
So best for us and best for the tractor.
That's right.
Yeah, wow.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Kind of along that line, Perry, this person would like to know, is it too early to plant canola?
Middle April. Canola has some frost tolerance, and so I would actually like to see it in the ground by now, if if it was possible. I understand it's a wet spring, and so that's going to be the next question: is how late can I plant canola and still get a reasonable crop? Because that July drought will always come, and that's where canola really suffers, is when you've got the plant out at mid-bloom, and all of a sudden you got heat and no rain, and it doesn't finish off properly. winter canola would be another option, which we probably need to do more research with. But we know a few things about that. So if anybody's got interest in that this fall, I'd be happy to talk to you about this fall or summer actually, because some of the more successful plantings have been in the summer. So.
Okay. Toby from Shelby, this caller wants to know what is the best apple tree for his area for medium-sized apples, and they're not interested in crab apples.
Boy, that's a loaded question. I get this question quite often, and really what it comes down to is what do you want? Do you want something that's an eating apple, one that you're going to be processing, maybe making applesauce, apple pie? And each apple has a different taste and texture, and really what it comes down to is which one do you like? If you have the opportunity to taste a bunch of different apples, that's what I would probably do. Hardiest apple you're going to find is probably Haralson or Haralson Red, even though if you find some of the writings that Haralson made himself in 1920 said that it stores well in a house with 5 teenage boys, which means that it stored really well, but it didn't taste great. Although I still have master gardeners that absolutely love Haralson apples. I'm not a big fan, but they do store for a long time. But if I was to pick my favorite, so if I was to of all the apples out there, probably Sweet 16 is my favorite apple. The only issue with that one is it takes a minimum of 8 years before you start getting apples. So get it in the ground now, and 8 years from now you might get some apples. Other than that, it's just kind of, people love McIntosh, Wealthy. There's a lot of different ones. State Fair is a really kind of tart, sprightly one. It just kind of depends on your taste.
Can I put in a pitch for a crab? I have a little experiment too in my orchard. We've had 32 different varieties of apples that we've tried in Big Sandy, and the best crab I found was chestnut. And it's a size, it's bigger than a golf ball, and it's delicious. It's really wonderful. So don't encourage your caller not to discount crabs out of hand. But I have a question something that was told to me, and we saw in our experiment, was that if you do semi-dwarf up where we are, where it's really harsh, for zone 3, that the semi-dwarf really reduces the hardiness about a half a zone. And we've lost most of our semi-dwarfs, and now I've gone to all standard trees and standard rootstock. Is that true, Toby? Did you say?
So the more dwarf that the rootstock is in those apples, traditionally that would mean they're less hardy. And so we usually don't recommend east of the Continental Divide to put in dwarf rootstock, and you're kind of, especially in your area, semi-dwarf might be kind of tough. Now that being said, there was a grower that I saw up in kind of the Chester area. I'm trying to remember the name of the town, Rudyard.
Oh yeah.
All the trees were dwarf trees and seemed to live through the winter. So it's hard to say, but I would probably stay with standard if I was putting an orchard in, just as long as I wasn't putting an intense growing orchard. If it was, normally spaced, every 15, 20 feet, then I would probably go with a standard rootstock. Yeah, definitely makes a difference.
Okay, Lori, you always bring something. You want to show us what you've got there tonight?
Yes.
Don't let it get too close to Toby, though.
Yeah, I was telling everybody on the panel that I was going to put it on Toby's head to see how he reacted, but I'm not going to do that until later, maybe. So this is a Mexican red-knee tarantula. She's about 6 months old, and she will probably get to be about the size of my hand. I think I brought her on in the fall, and she was just a little baby. And we do not have tarantulas here in Montana, but I had an interesting sample last summer from Colstrip, where I got a call that someone had a large spider that they wanted to send to me, and I said, just put it in a vial, and she said, it's not going to fit. and so she sent it to me, and I found out that the tarantula was at a gas station, and it ended up, it was dead, but it must have fallen off of someone's truck, and it was probably alive for long enough to make it to the back of the gas station. I expected it to be right near the pumps. So we did get a tarantula here in Montana, but it's not alive. So.
Okay. So Bob, I know one of the things that you've been up to this past year is writing a book, and I want to show the folks this book and tell us a little bit about it. What's it all about? Well, I don't picture you as an author. I picture you as a guy out there on the tractor.
Well, after 40 years of the kind of summary I told you, I thought that I had learned a lot of things. I wanted to put that in a book, and so I tried for 5 years to write a book, and I got rejected from one of my favorite publishers. And then I ran into a co-author, Liz Carlisle, who wrote the Lentil Underground, story about Montana, folks around here. And she did in 5 months what I couldn't do in 5 years. And the story is about the high cost of cheap food, really. You know, and people talk about commodity agriculture. In fact, I saw that they had a byline that I was going to talk about commodity organics tonight. We don't grow any commodities on our farm at all. We only grow good food for people's health and their nourishment and enjoyment. And I really believe this very strongly. If we can reconnect the idea of health and food, we can overcome some of these problems that we have with industrial agriculture that is based on purely cheap food and abundant food. And so the farmers, starting with the farmers, they pay a very high cost of cheap food because they can't sell this grain for enough to make a living anymore, or even pay their expenses. So that's why we're thinking that organic agriculture really is the future. And it really provides an opportunity for farmers to make money again, because they lower the cost of their inputs, because they grow their own, they increase the value of their outputs because they're selling at higher prices. And then the communities that suffer from the high cost of cheap food would be able to start regenerating, because jobs could come back in. And then our planet could take a little break from pollution. You know, Don, right now we have glyphosate in our rainfall. We are spraying so many tons, millions of tons of glyphosate that is really affecting the whole planet, and particularly our part. And so we're looking forward to some alternative that can reduce that kind of load. And the final high cost is the high cost to our health. And we're finding that there is a very direct connection between cheap food and high incidence of chronic diseases. And any country who has a significant amount or number of their people who are sick will never pay for that. And that's where we're headed. And so I think that we can eat our way healthy and bring some of that money back to the communities, and particularly to our farms.
So, if I want to buy this book, Bob, where can I get it?
Well, you can get it in any of your favorite bookstores. You can get it from Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Amazon. And we're doing a 2-week tour of Montana starting tomorrow. We'll be in Billings on Monday, the 15th. Then we go to Great Falls the 16th, Havre the 17th, back to Missoula the 18th. And then the following week, we're in southern Montana here, starting in Butte on the 22nd, Bozeman the 23rd, and Helena on the 24th.
You sound like a rock star.
Oh man, it's been a trip. It's been a trip. And if you want to go to our blog and Instagram at Bob Quinn Organic Farmer, you can see all the dates and the times and the places.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait to see Bob Quinn groupies. It's going to be awesome. I might be one.
Well, you'd be welcome.
Perry, this question came in. What's the potential for hemp in Montana? It's legal to grow hemp, is that right?
Yeah, there has been some changes in regulations. Hemp is a new crop that there's quite a bit of interest in, and there's actually a hemp advisory committee that's just started, so I got a chance to go and sort of get informed at that meeting a week or so ago. And there's a lot of interest in this crop by a lot of folks for a lot of different reasons. And so it's going to take some sorting out. I think a lot of people are thinking this is going to be kind of a quick get-rich opportunity, and I can really understand. You know, Bob said that, you know, grain prices are cheap right now, and yeah, there's just not a lot of good options. You talk to growers, and it's everything they look at doesn't seem to pencil out. And so I think there's more attention for a crop like hemp than there might otherwise be. Having said that, there are some angles that look like they could be interesting and should be explored, and so I think this is one of the ones, again, where the researchers will be playing catch up a little bit, because there's substantial grower interest, and I think you know, they're going to go ahead with a substantial acres of that crop again. We were the #1 hemp producing state in America last year, although that didn't actually finish with a happy story in terms of there were sales that didn't get completed and things like that. So there's going to be some growing pains with this crop.
Perry, are they growing them hemp mostly for fiber, or are they growing it for seed, for oil? What's the
Great question, Toby. Yeah, so the fiber is a residual value, and that's probably going to be more associated with growers who are trying to produce it for seed. But what I learned last week is the vast majority interest is in direct CBD oil harvesting methods, which means you harvest it at an immature stage, at the bud/flower stage, almost like high quality alfalfa. So I mean, it ends up in a bale and gets processed out of that bale, and that whole process is kind of a vertically integrated supply chain kind of, so it's not just anybody can get in that. You better have a contract if you're going to go there. There has been some substantial money made at times, but there was a story in northeastern Montana last year where it didn't turn out very well. There was, I think, 18,000 acres aimed at that sort of market, and it didn't all end well. So.
And this is not when you talk about CBD. Just really quickly, that's not THC or
Right. Good. Yeah. So yeah, we should say that right up front. The state regulates this at a very high level, and actually, I really got to give credit to Ben Thomas and his crew, because Montana has said they're going to regulate this industry very carefully, and they want to do that as a way of building faith with anybody who wants to invest in this kind of area to know that they're going to be a regulated system where there's not going to be a lot of wildcatting with this crop. So yes, there's an approved list of varieties. They have a maximum of 0.3% THC. I can't pronounce the chemical that THC is, but that's the psychoactive part of marijuana. And so it's very low. Like marijuana, I'm told marijuana will run in the 12 to 20% THC, and this is 0.3%. So you probably smoke a round bale and wouldn't be able to get a buzz off it. So, yeah.
It's like the non-alcoholic beer of the beer industry.
Yes, yeah, maybe even more so.
I would really caution anybody that's really interested in growing this. We grew 7 acres 3 years ago, and it took us 2 years to sell the crop.
Yeah.
So be sure you've got a contract, maybe 2, backup. But I think it's got great potential. But there's so many people jumping in without a place to go. We ended up finally crushing it we harvested the seed in our case, and we crushed it in our presses for oil. But it makes a great oil. It has great cosmetic potential. It just took us a long time to find a home for that. So don't get overboard and cautious.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people use camelina as the example, right? Of a crop where we got too far out in front of what that crop's potential really was.
Yep.
In the case of hemp, there does seem to be the market interest is there.
There is.
And so if we can find a way of tapping that market interest, I have a kind of a better feeling for it. Same time, yeah, I think we're probably being optimistic at the moment with the amount of interest there is.
Okay, Toby, back to you from Bozeman. Their lawn has lots of 2-inch holes. What is causing them? What should I do? This is after all that snow has gone off the lawn.
So you probably have voles. It's the perennial question we have every single year. So that's where the voles are going into the ground. Usually you see some of those holes. You'll see tracks throughout the lawn. And that is pretty simply taken care of by just putting out mouse traps around those holes in those pathways with the tripping mechanism. And do it at night. You'll catch a lot of voles. Get a cat. Yeah, they're really good at getting voles. Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. I felt bad. I was driving down 19th, and we were all stopped, and there was voles running back and forth across the street, trying not to get run over. That just tells you how many voles we're going to have this year. So I'm waiting for those phone calls. I haven't got them yet, but I have a feeling we're going to have another bad vole year.
Okay. I just had noticed, Bob, that your book is available in the Bozeman Public Library.
Oh, good.
So
there you go.
local folks could go down there and
Thank
get
you.
it. Lori,
He doesn't like that, though, because they're not paying for it.
We're anxious to serve the whole public.
Lori from Bozeman, they have black vine weevils on peonies, early blooming peonies in about 6 weeks. Should I drench and kill the larval stage now? She doesn't want to harm the bees.
Yeah, that is one. So far, for that black vine weevil, we haven't seen any damage to the health of the plants at all. So it's more for a cosmetic damage to the foliage, and so it's really not something that you need to treat. I just keep an eye on it and make sure that your peonies stay healthy. But that cosmetic damage we see from a lot of different weevils on lilacs and a lot of different ornamentals. So I wouldn't treat unless you started to see some sort of decline in your plant.
So is this what causes kind of the scalloped edges on the leaves? Is that?
That's it. It's the scalloped edges, and there's leafcutter bees, and the leafcutter bees those are like semicircular holes on the sides of the leaves that are a lot larger, and the weevils are just small little notches they pretty much take over the whole entire leaf. So we haven't seen any reason to treat for them right now.
Okay, Bob, you mentioned Kamut, and I'm curious about where did the name come from? How did you find Kamut in the very first place? And are you doing anything to improve it, like for disease resistance? Because I think at one time you told me it's susceptible to about every disease around.
Well,
Maybe
not
that's
every
it.
disease.
Okay, good.
But it does have a very great susceptibility to black tip. And if that gets bad enough, the customers don't want it. But going back, again, over 50 years, I first saw it at a county fair where I thought it was an old man. He's probably younger than I am now. Had a Folgers, red Folgers can, and he said to me, "Hey, Sonny," he says, "you want come over here?" He says, "You want some of King Tut's wheat?" And he poured this giant grain in my hand. It was 3 times the size of regular wheat.
Yes.
I thought, wow, that's quite interesting. And the story was that there was an Air Force guy from our county, from Fort Benton, who was stationed in Portugal, and he met a guy in a bar one night that just got back from furlough to Egypt, and claimed he had taken this bag of wheat out of a tomb in Egypt. And so the story went, it was King Tut's wheat. Well, he sent it to his dad, a little handful, and it grew, and about 1950 this happened, and it was a great novelty and a great story, but no one did anything with it, and they didn't have any market for it. And when I was finishing my graduate work there at Davis, I was eating a corn nuts package one day, and it said, "Corn nuts made with a giant corn." I thought, I wonder if corn nuts would be interested in giant wheat. And so I called up Corn Nuts, and they said, "Oh, we might be interested in that." And I said, "Hey, Dad," I called my dad right next thing. I said, "Dad, see if you can find some of that old King Tut wheat." And he found a small jar in a week or so and sent me a couple tablespoons. They sent the Corn Nuts, and they thought it was fantastic. It made that kind of the snack that we're making now. And they said, "This is so good, we'll take 10,000 pounds. And I said, "Well, I didn't really have 10,000 pounds. I didn't tell him I had only half a jar full." And I said, "If you just wait a couple years, I don't quite have that yet, I'll have everything you want." And so we started growing it in the garden and sending it to California to go over the winter. And by the time we had 50 pounds, I called them up again, and the guys that was interested in it was gone, and they didn't have any interest anymore. So it sat on our shelf until we took it to a food show in '86. And again, we had one person who was interested, and based on that, we planted a half an acre. And 30 years later, we had 100,000 acres under cultivation in Montana, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. And Kamut is a trademark, so it's not the name of the grain. We found that people could eat it who couldn't eat modern wheat. And when we found this, I thought, wow, this is something special. We need to take care of this. So we used a trademark, which is the Egyptian word for wheat, to protect it. And the trademark is it's not an ownership thing like a patent, but it's a guarantee, a market guarantee. And our guarantee was always organic, it was pure ancient grain, and that it was high in protein, high in minerals. And after people were telling us their experience, we started some research, and now we've published 31 peer-reviewed journal articles from mostly research done in Italy. That's our biggest market. That's 3/4 of everything we grow goes to Italy. They make over 3,500 different products in Italy with this stuff. And that's where the most interest was. And what we found is it's extremely high in antioxidants, but also it's anti-inflammatory. And modern wheat causes inflammation in low levels, and this is anti-inflammatory, and the difference is like 30 to 45%. You can't get this kind of difference with medicines, with pills. And so this is amazing, and this really opened up to me a whole new vista of looking at food for nutrition rather than just medicines.
Amazing story.
Yeah, it just goes on and on. We have 15 more papers that we're going to be publishing. We've looked at, because of the link with inflammation, we know that all chronic diseases are linked to inflammation. So we studied these are human clinical studies now, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome, diabetes, and now we finished studies on fibromyalgia. And all the results are pretty much the same.
Are you doing any breeding work with Kamut?
No, that was your last question.
Yeah.
Actually, not. I was afraid to change it because I didn't know what the benefit. I didn't know where that was coming from. But what I'm doing now, Don, and that's a really good question, is looking at winter hardiness. And I've gotten different strains of this. It's Coruscant is the common name for this. And I've gotten different strains from all over the world. I got about 110 from our own USDA small grains collection in Idaho. I've also gotten a couple dozen from the Babalov Institute in St. Petersburg in Russia. I've been there about 6 or 8 times and working with them, working with a group in Israel, and got about a dozen lines from them, and we're planting those in the fall. Because with climate change, you know, farmers don't have the luxury to debate climate change. We have to respond to it because it's in our area. It's coming with earlier summers, hotter and earlier summers, and earlier end of our rains. And so our spring planted crops are getting higher and higher risk. So we're looking at now more opportunities with fall planted crops. We're even taking some normally spring planted crops and planting them in the fall and see if we can look for winter hardiness. And that's what we're doing with the Coruscant, more than breeding. That's what we're looking for, is different lines.
Don, we had a chance to grow it in some of our organic research plots here at Fort Ellis last year. And we grew it both in our organic systems, and then as part of the research design is we grow it in a conventionally fertilized, you know, pesticide no-till system also. And I was, Bob had told me this plant really doesn't tiller very much, and it doesn't. So on the plots where we fertilized it, so I guess we can't call it kamut on those plots, it got very tall and these huge, enormous heads. And I'm thinking, boy, you know, this is going to lodge right flat because you know, typically that's what happens when you over fertilize something that's, you know, a tall wheat structure. We didn't have one plant go down. I mean, it's got a really strong stem. There's been stories with the wheat stem sawfly experience the same thing. So it's an interesting plant. It really is.
We went to Egypt to look. I was in Cairo and looked in the museum to see if I could really verify the old tomb story. And when I looked in the museum, it wasn't this at all. It was einkorn. I could see the striations, and it had the special shape of the kernels, and that's what they were growing 4,000 years ago. And I was so bummed out because I've been telling the story for 10 years. And then I went to Turkey. We were doing some experiments in Turkey, and they told me in Turkey, they said, oh, well, we know this grain. We call it camel's tooth because of the way it's shaped, kind of big on one end, small on the other. Or we call it the prophet sweet. I said, oh, that's really interesting. Why do you call it the prophet sweet? I said, does it have something to do with Muhammad? Because you know, it's pretty Muslim there. I didn't want to get in the wrong side of that discussion. And they said, oh, no, not that prophet. They said, you know, the one with the boat. I said, the boat? Do you mean Noah? Oh, yes. This is the grain Noah brought with him on the ark. And I said, wow, it's a lot better story than my old tomb story.
Oh, boy. Well, you're full of stories, Bob.
Oh, I know.
Perry, this question came in from Conrad. They've heard about quinoa. Can they grow it up in Conrad? Tell us a little bit about quinoa.
So yeah, quinoa is an action grain. It's grown mostly in the South American Andes, and there's about 3 different strains, you know, that grow at different elevations, different conditions. And I mean, it's, from a value-added perspective, it's a crop that has become popular with you know, modern diners, millennials, whoever like to eat quinoa. So it seems like there's a potential for us to make some money growing a new crop. But we don't, it's one where there's not much research about it. I mean, it's something that's maybe got 25,000 acre potential. How do we invest in research of those kinds of things that are so small? So from what I know about it, I know people have been playing with it. I would probably steer them away from quinoa, just because there's a lot to learn about growing that crop. Just the way it's harvested, the way it's, I mean, you should be in league with somebody who really wants to buy it before I would even think about trying to produce it, and take advantage of whatever in-house knowledge they have, because the public research information on it is just about non-existent.
Okay, Toby, this person would like you to repeat the favorite crabapple varieties. You and Bob both. You both mentioned favorite crabapples.
Well, I know, Bob, what was yours? Chestnut?
Chestnut.
Chestnut
Are
is
you
a great
familiar with that one?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, what do you think?
That's great.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Absolutely. My favorite crab apple is actually Kerr crab, Kerr, like the canning jar. And then the apple that I like most is Sweet 16. Sweet 16. Right. You know, I used to watch this show and watch Bob Goff on this show, and when I had him for fruit production, he would talk about Northern Spy, and on the show he would have this little glint in his eye when he would talk about Northern Spy. It was the greatest apple. And then I started liking the Sweet 16, and so I decided to go see what the parent was, and one of the parents was with Northern Spy. And so I get an understanding of why he loved that apple, because it does have a very unique taste, and it's just something that I've never really had before. So I had to plant one. I planted one 10 years ago, and I just got apples last year. So it does take a while.
Lori from Billings, they have some pear trees with wormy fruit, but the tree is close to a beehive. what can they do about the worms in the pears without affecting the bees?
That gets a little tricky. That's probably, the worms in the pear are probably coddling moth, so they hit apples and pears. And if you wait till, you base the timing on what we call degree days, which it depends on, you have to have a good temperature station near your, to calculate degree days appropriately. But basically you're going to be applying, there are lots of different chemicals you can apply. One is has the active ingredient BT, and but you have to make sure that to do that, usually the degree days and the proper amount of timing or the proper timing is after the petals have dropped. So you're usually safe in the B zone for that.
And BT is organic.
Yes, it is.
Biocontrol, so
Yeah,
good
so-
for you.
yeah.
And then you can move either the tree or the beehive. I would say the beehive is probably a whole lot easier to move than the tree.
In the tree,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, here's an interesting question, Bob, for you from Missoula. They heard that Randolph Diesel used hemp in his first engines. Can hemp oil be used in engines today, like a biofuel or additive or something like that?
Now, that's a good question. I do not know the answer to that for sure. I know that if you're using straight vegetable oil, it needs to be a monounsaturated, and I'm not sure where hemp oil falls into that. Between polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. Of course, you can make biodiesel with any oil, and then it will work just fine. But that would be a question I'd have to refer to someone that knows a little bit more about the makeup of hemp oil.
Well, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that one either.
Perry from Kalispell says, what herbicide can be sprayed in a pasture that is animal safe to get rid of white yarrow? You got any
That's
experience
it's not
with
really
that?
in my ballpark. No, sorry, we would refer that to probably Jane Mangold, I would think. So,
Okay.
and she will know.
Okay, let's see here. Bob, another question for you. Describe the issues that you faced when dealing with niche markets, because a lot of your stuff is kind of niche marketing,
Yes.
is that right?
In the beginning, of course, we were all completely niche. You're right. I would say with niche markets, first find a niche, find a group or a company or a manufacturer that's looking for something unique that you can grow. And that's what we can do very well in Montana. There's lots of things that we can grow. But we're limited. We can't grow everything. But there's a lot of things that we can grow. And I would, when I'm working on niche markets, I focus on quality. The thing that the big companies really can't duplicate very well is service and quality. They have standardization, so that everything that they sell is very standardized, and it works fine for industrial setups. But when you go into non-industrial models, then the niche markets really give you an advantage. But you have to know what you have to know your product. You should know more about what you're growing than anybody else, and you should have as high a quality as possible.
Okay, from Dunkirk, Toby, what is the best way to start a raspberry patch up here on the High Line?
Where is that?
I have no idea where that's at. You know, I've been here, we were talking 10 years, and I have no idea where Dunkirk is. Anybody been there?
I've traveled.
Oh, I don't. No.
Yeah, where is it?
It's right near Chester.
It's near Chester.
Yeah, Chester.
Okay.
I think it's between Chester and
I've
Shelby.
probably driven through there, so. What was the question again?
Raspberries.
Getting raspberries started in the High Line.
All right, good question. Sorry, I was so stuck on Dunkirk there. Strawberry or raspberries. What I would do is I would make sure that you get raspberries and strawberries both from a certified source, because just taking raspberries out of somebody else's garden and digging those up and putting in your garden, you're just going to be asking for different insect disease issues that I just don't recommend that. You can go to your local nursery. I would advise you to ask that nursery where they get their raspberries from, because unfortunately I think there's a few of them out there that just dig them up in their garden and put them in pots and sell them. And so make sure that they're from a certified source. Other than that, raspberries, you can buy them bare root. You can buy them fairly cheap this time of year, and they're pretty easy to grow. I've really never seen an issue with. Usually they become a weed more than anything else. 18 inches apart, well-prepared soil. If it is high pH, which is going to be in that area, you do want to watch for iron deficiency, which will be a problem in raspberries. So I would probably get a ferrous iron, which is kind of a granular iron, in that soil before you plant.
One thing I've had trouble with raspberries is they're labeled zone 3-4. Where we are, and that's in Dunker's, the same area, they don't last.
They don't.
And I just really look for hardy, solid zone 3s in that area.
Latham is probably the industry standard and probably the most hardy that I've seen. It just grows everywhere, so that's what I'd look for. Latham is the cultivar that I'd recommend.
We're getting down towards the end, and our phone operators aren't very busy, so if you got any last-minute questions, be sure to get those in. While they're getting those, Lori, this question came in from Washington, town of Omake. I'm not sure where that is.
I have no idea.
We must have a signal that goes a long ways. But they have an old spruce with borers. Every spring, the old needles fall off. Is this something they can do something about? The tree's 75 foot tall, so it's a big one.
If it's a spruce and they have borers, they're probably talking about the white pine weevil, and they'll attack the leader, and the needles will fall off where they attack at the top there. You could have multiple issues going on. But the best thing to do, and they're starting to come out early and earlier now, you could spray the leader with an insecticide, a contact insecticide, and you'll get dozens of them kind of mating and laying eggs in the leader. Or this is one you could control without chemicals pretty easily. Once they're in there and you know that they're in there, you could actually clip off the leader and train a new leader. So it's one you can control without chemicals. But I guess if it's that tall, that gets pretty tricky to get up there.
Right,
So
right.
if you could somehow get a contact spray to the leader there, it'll take care of the borers up there.
Okay, Bob, you're one of the old-time leaders of organic farming here in Montana. If somebody young wants to get involved in organic farming, what would you advise them? How should they go about it? What issues do you see they're going to have to solve?
Well, I would start small. We started with 1% at our first experiment on our farm. That's a little too small. But I would get acquainted. I wouldn't start with more than 20% for sure of your farm. And I would get acquainted with some of the successful organic farmers in your area. Most of them are very generous with their time and their information, and go to some of our excellent seminars we have around the state. The Montana Organic Association meets every December. I think this coming year, the first week or second week in December here in Bozeman. I think they're meeting in Bozeman this year. And it's a very excellent place to get information. That's the one thing I would do. I would start checking into markets and find the markets and the best the crops to grow in your region, the best crops for soil building, because we grow our own fertilizer in Montana, and then in the fallow years, our soil building year, and we have to find which those soil building crops work best in your area. And that would be a way to really get in quickly without having to do a lot of your own experimentation.
Bob, when I go to these meetings, it seems to me that there's actually quite a few young people there. I mean, compared to other farm associations I get to interact with, the organic group is a pretty young, energetic crowd. And so I think there is lots of opportunity, and I would totally agree. Very, very willing to share their information. Sometimes it's research-based, sometimes it's just opinion, but but still, that's how you learn, right? So
one thing that really made a difference for me when I started growing organic, it really made farming fun again. And you'll find that at these groups. When I go to other farm groups, it's really, a lot of the farmers aren't having that much fun. I mean, they're really up against it as far as is making it financially. It's not always just a bed of roses in organic, but the potential is certainly there for a better outcome. And there's, I think, more optimism and more excitement about what's actually going on our farms, rather than trying to figure out how we're going to get more government payments and that sort of thing.
Okay, Toby from Billings, is there an apple tasting orchard in Montana where apple fans can serve and sample the different varieties?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of people out there that have several different apples in their orchard. I don't know of one that's going to have all of them that the orchardist is going to allow people to come in and taste. I have seen that in some orchards, especially in the Bitterroot. But yeah, I would just ask around, see who's got apples, and maybe put something together in your community if that's an opportunity.
Of course, the challenge with that is that, at least in our orchard, our earliest apple is coming in the end of July,
Yeah.
and the latest one at the end of October. It's already been freezing a couple
Yeah.
times. And so, even though I have 30 or 32 apples, there are only 2 or 3 normally are ripe or at their peak at any one time, or maybe 4.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
a little bit of a challenge.
We've had, out at the Hort Farm, we had an apple tasting, and there was, I think we had about 6 different apples out there, and they were on different ends of the spectrum of ripeness too, which does really influence the flavor. So that is difficult to do. It is.
Toby, one of my most unique experiences in my graduate school days back in Minnesota is I got to go spend a day with an apple breeder at their nursery south of the cities, and as I remember, it was late September. I had never tasted so many different kinds of apples, from ones that were bright red, and when you bit into them, there was no taste, nothing. To so they looked nice. To others that tasted like licorice. I mean, it was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe there was that kind of variety in the taste of an apple.
I remember going to the Arbor Day farm in Nebraska at a conference, and we did a tour of their ancient orchard that's there, and they said, well, you can pick one apple off a tree and you can taste it. Well, that wasn't good enough for me, so I said, if they're not on the tree, if they're on the ground, can you taste them? Well, if you want to, you can. So I ran up, we had 10 minutes. I probably tasted maybe at least 80 different apples. So sick. Oh, I was sick for the next 2 hours. It was awful. But I got to taste a lot of different apples, and it was fun. It was fun.
Funny you mention that, because this apple breeder, another thing I remember about him is he had no teeth. From all the acid that he was, tasting apples, it was really hard on his teeth.
Wow.
Wow.
Bob, a question from Hamilton. Where can you buy your oils in Montana? Are they available in our stores?
Well, not too many. If you go on our website, oilbarn.com, you'll find where you can find them closest to you. If you're in Hamilton, we do have some in Missoula, I know for sure. But I don't know in Hamilton right off the top of my head. But we're just getting started with this. We haven't been going too many years. But as it gets distributed out more, you'll find them on their website.
Okay, well, folks, we're really getting down to the last minute here. I really want to thank Bob for coming down and bringing all of his show and tell with him, and his book especially. He's leaving a copy with me to read, and that's what I'm going to go home tonight and start working on. So, Bob, it's sure good to see you again, and thank you very much for coming down. Also want to thank the panel, Perry, Lori, and Toby, for being such good sports tonight, and thanks to all the phone operators. They're still writing down questions, so we hope that maybe we'll get to those questions in another time. Now, next week we will not be on. It's Easter weekend, and so we'll be back 2 weeks from now. And at that time, Nina Zidak's going to be your host, and she has Mark Bosch, who's a potato producer from Whitehall. I think he's one of the few potato producers in Montana that produces for the market rather than as a seed producer. So he's going to talk to us about some of the interesting things that he's doing. So stay tuned 2 weeks from tonight, and we'll hope to see you back at that time. Thanks very much for watching, and have a good week.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, the Montana Bankers Association, Cashman Nursery and Landscaping, the Gallatin Gardeners Club, and the Rocky Mountain Certified Crop Advisor Program.
Get your own Montana Ag Live mug or hat when you pledge your support. Watch your favorite Montana Ag Live show online or join our Facebook discussion when you visit the Montana Ag Live link at montanapbs.org.